Hey guys, I want to talk about the severe thunderstorm threat for the rest of today for the Gulf Coast and also the severe thunderstorm threat for portions of the Ohio Valley and the Gulf Coast of Florida and Georgia tomorrow afternoon. Now, I've been busy the past few days, so that's why I couldn't make videos about the severe weather from Texas to Mississippi. But as I'm making this video, the majority of thunderstorms are into the Florida Panhandle now, and they're starting to weaken. But I want to talk about what's going on tonight and tomorrow. Now, this is the Storm Prediction Center's severe thunderstorm outlook. You can see today they still have the moderate risk out for portions of the Gulf Coast of Alabama and Florida. But the majority of this is now pushing to the east of that as of right now as I'm making this. So the severe threat will start to wane as it pushes through the panhandle of Florida. And then tomorrow, the Storm Prediction Center has an enhanced risk out for portions of eastern Ohio into adjacent West Virginia, and also with a slight risk around that, and also a slight risk for portions of northern Florida and southeastern Georgia. So I want to go right to the models here, going back to my favorite, the high resolution HRRR model. It usually does a very good job at convective setups. That's why I use this one a lot. Let's start off with the Gulf Coast actually for the rest of, to show you what's going on for the rest of today. So as of now, we have these thunderstorms moving across the Gulf Coast of Alabama and Florida. And as we go into the rest of tonight, this is going into by midnight tonight. Still have a lot of training of thunderstorms for portions of Florida, the panhandle of Florida, into southern portions of Alabama and Georgia. There could be a pretty big time flash flooding out of these with how they're training over the same areas. But for the most part, there's so many clusters of thunderstorms, it'll keep the tornado threat down. But with such a good environment for damaging winds, I would expect damaging winds out of these thunderstorms, and also hail. Maybe a low-end tornado if we could get a more discrete cell in there. But as we go into the overnight hours, these storms push into portions of Tallahassee. They continue pushing through Georgia. Very widespread thunderstorms. Not a lot of room to get discrete cells in there to produce such a high tornado threat. And with the instability waning a bit overnight, I expect the tornado threat to diminish a bit. But definitely a big time flash flooding possible in these, damaging winds, and maybe some hail in these also. And then this is going into tomorrow. This will be around noontime tomorrow. That cold front pushes into portions of Georgia, into eastern Georgia, and approaches the Jacksonville, Florida area. Could get a couple of severe cells here and there within that. Doesn't look like a widespread tornado risk in there due to the fact that it's so linear instead of supercellular, but damaging winds would be the main threat out of this, and hail. Maybe a low-end tornado. Let me look at the environment actually ahead of this storms. This is the sounding for around Jacksonville tomorrow afternoon. And the first thing I noticed is that there is a curvature in the hodograph here. The winds veer slightly in the low levels, but the helicity values are incredible, over 300. Anything over 100 could produce tornadoes. Helicity is the updraft potential in the thunderstorms, so there would be a lot of updraft potential there in northern portions of Florida, southeastern Georgia tomorrow afternoon. But the fact that it's so linear, the thunderstorm could be a squall line that would keep the threat of severe tornadoes down. But with such high helicity values, I expect that there could be some low-end tornadoes anywhere in this line segment across portions of northern Florida and southeastern Georgia. Then as we go through the rest of the day tomorrow, April 11th, that cold front pushes eastward all the way down the peninsula of Florida, and then off the coast of the Carolinas there. And then as it does so, it starts to weaken by the time it reaches South Florida tomorrow night. Now, let's go to portions of the Ohio Valley to show you the severe threat tomorrow. There, looking at the simulated radar again. So as we go through tonight, this is the overnight hours tonight. We have a lot of rain showers across portions of eastern Ohio, West Virginia, But one thing that does kind of make me think that it won't be as bad tomorrow is the fact that we have a lot of rain showers tomorrow morning across portions of eastern Ohio and maybe West Virginia. A combination of that plus the cloud cover will keep the instability down tomorrow afternoon, and so the storms with less instability due to the rain and cloud cover tomorrow afternoon, I wouldn't expect huge amounts of instability, which would cause the thunderstorms to not reach their full potential. So and you can see that in the model here. This is by 4 p.m. tomorrow. Now, notice how the thunderstorms start to blossom here across southeastern Ohio. They're not looking very supercellular to me. Notice how the model is showing that they're just kind of small storm clusters in here. Now these do look pretty intense, but the model is showing that I would expect hail out of these. But the fact that the instability isn't as high as it could be, and the model is showing that here, these don't look supercellular to me. So I wouldn't expect a big time tornado threat tomorrow for southeastern Ohio. Now, looking at the soundings here, the soundings do show a pretty good tornado profile. That's why the Storm Prediction Center put an enhanced risk for southeastern portions of Ohio tomorrow. Because the first thing you see is we have curvature in the hodograph there. We have some veering of the winds in the low levels. Helicity values over 200 to 300, so that's very conducive for tornado development. And even the low level shear over 30 to 40 knots, that's very good for tornado development. But notice the mid-level lapse rates are very weak across eastern Ohio tomorrow. I think that's going to keep the instability down, and that's going to make the tornado threat reach its full potential. Now, with such high helicity values in this area, I would expect a low end tornado. I would expect low end tornadoes, for eastern Ohio due to the helicity values. But with such low instability and the fact that I'm not expecting like much supercell development across this area, I don't think there will be any damaging tornadoes or very strong tornadoes tomorrow across eastern Ohio. And then as we go a few hours later into the evening hours tomorrow, these storms, the model is showing that these storms will start to quickly form into a line. And the fact that it'll be more of a line segment keeps the tornado threat down even further. But once again, since there is high helicity values in this area tomorrow, I would expect that there could be some low-end tornadoes anywhere within this line, especially if you get some Bowen segments or mesovortices that can develop. You can get some low-end tornadoes in there. But once again, I'm not expecting widespread, strong supercellular storms. I'm not expecting strong tornadoes or long-track tornadoes tomorrow. And then as we go, but once the sun sets tomorrow evening, the little instability that there was dwindles quickly, which means that the thunderstorms dwindle quickly also. So by the time the storms reach the Pittsburgh area and Pennsylvania, they fall apart very, very quickly. Obviously, we'll still have thunderstorms here across western and central Pennsylvania, but they'll lose their severe limits by that point, especially by the time they get to the east of Pittsburgh, between Pittsburgh and State College there. And then as we go all the way into the overnight hours, all that pushes east into the northeastern portions of the United States. And then I'm going to show you guys the helicity tracks. This is basically showing what I just showed you with the radar, and it's showing where each updraft rotation occurred. Excuse me there, I can't find the words. Where the updraft rotation occurred in all those storms that I just showed you in the simulated radar. So as we go into tomorrow, notice how there is a decent cluster of helicity tracks here across southeastern and east central Ohio. That tells me that there will be a good potential to get some low-end tornadoes in there due to the high helicity values. And it'll be very confined to eastern Ohio, southeastern, and east central Ohio. That's where the instability will be maximized before the sun goes down. And that's where I do think there will be some sunny periods tomorrow afternoon and evening before these thunderstorms can develop. That'll help in the tornado development. But once they quickly form into line segments, and once the instability goes down after sunset, I'm not expecting it to continue much into western Pennsylvania. And then for portions of northern Ohio, the cloud cover might stick for longer, and so there'll be even less instability there. So that's why I'm not expecting a huge tornado threat for portions of northern Ohio either. And I want to go back to portions of Florida and Georgia because I didn't show you the helicity tracks for that area there. So this is for tonight. Notice how we had strong helicity tracks across portions of the northwestern and western portions of the Florida Panhandle and as far as southern Alabama this afternoon. That's why we had a tornado threat in that area today. But as we go into tomorrow, notice how this whole area does have some helicity tracks, basically from the northern half of Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, even North Carolina. But they're not widespread, and they're not very high values there. So I'm not expecting any long track severe tornadoes at all for this area tomorrow. But the fact that we do have some helicity tracks, a lot of low-end helicity tracks in this area, tells me that there could be a couple low-end tornadoes possible for portions of the Gulf Coast and the southeast, from northern Georgia, northern Florida to portions of South Carolina. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that's all I have for now. Let me quickly skim. Yeah, I think that's all I got for now. So I hope everyone has a good day and stay safe tonight and tomorrow. Have a good day, everyone.